Helping Seniors Television, all about improving quality of life for seniors. If you're a senior, know a senior, or plan to be a senior, then this show is for you. It's all about helping you develop your own aging plan so you can age actively and with dignity. Helping Seniors Television from the Helping Seniors Network of information, education, and resources. Welcome to Helping Seniors Television. I'm Kerry Fink. This is the show that's designed to inform, educate, and connect you to resources that are going to make a difference for you as you develop your own aging plan. Our founder, Joe Steckler, retired Navy captain who his last command in the Navy was operating the Navy's retirement home in Gulfport, Mississippi. It gave him a lifelong admiration and concern and desire to help seniors navigate all things seniors. So when he and his wife retired here, they came to Satellite Beach on the Space Coast of Florida, and Joe couldn't stay retired. So he immediately goes out and forms the Brevard Alzheimer's Foundation and starts to work on building up a program here in our community, which to this day they call it Joe's Clubs. They're daycare centers designed for giving caregivers a chance to have a little bit of a break and also to take good care of the people that we need to take good care of. Well, I met Joe when he had basically retired from that, and he said his work was not done. This is 15 years ago. And Joe says, he said, we need to do more for seniors. He said, because I learned that some families have challenges with cognition and things like that. But he goes, really, every family has a challenge with something that's in the senior world. And he said, we really need to create an organization that can help people navigate whatever it is that they're facing. And so 15 years ago, we established the County Senior Information Helpline. It's a free call. I'm going to give you that number, so grab a pencil and get ready to jot it down. The phone number is 321-473-7770. I'm going to give that number again. But last year, that number took 4,000 plus calls from folks, and it's about everything. It's legal, medical, financial, transportation, every question that a senior or their family might need help with. And so again, that number is 321-473-7770. And Joe always talked about a need to make what he called an aging plan. And we euphemistically call it getting your ducks in a row, because we just want to help you get ahead of the curve. Because a lot of times the calls we get are from people who have just entered some level of crisis, and we will do our best to help them navigate to a safe harbor. But so much better when somebody calls us, hey, in about 6 months, we're going to be doing this, we're going to do this, and then we have a chance to really work out a plan. So Joe always talks about making an aging plan, and that's why I think you're going to enjoy today's show so much, because we found people that really have the same heart and passion for this as we do. These are our friends from Arosa Care. I want to introduce you to Chris Cascio and to Stacie Martin. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Kerry.
You know, we were talking about the fact that I really have not heard so much of this concept. I don't know if these are the words that you use. I like to call it kind of like you are representing a concierge service when it comes to all things seniors. And I think it's a wonderful, wonderful place. First of all, is that a fair way to talk about it?
Yeah, that's absolutely a fair way to speak about it. No doubt.
Because I was asking you before we started on the show, I said, you know, I remember back in our business days, we would travel an awful lot. I mean, an awful lot. The joke for years was called Delta. They'll know where we are next.
Right,
you know?
exactly.
And we would go to a different city and we would check into a different hotel. And real quickly, we learned the value of a concierge. You know, it's like, hey, we want to have this kind of food, but we have no idea what's a good place to eat. Hey, we need to get over. We got a meeting in this part of town. What's the right way to get there? All those kind of questions that, because they had that specific knowledge, wasn't that we thought we were stupid. We just had no knowledge.
Yeah.
First time we've been here. And I think there's so many analogies from that into what happens to us on aging. We may be smart. We may be very intelligent. We may be very resourceful. We can certainly know how to work a search engine on the online, but it doesn't mean we really know what we're looking for or even the right questions to ask. Am I saying that right?
You absolutely are. And it's funny that you mentioned that concierge as an analogy at what you get at a hotel, because some of our care managers, when they describe the business, that's actually the analogy that they use. So you're right on point with what we provide. Yes.
You know, I was asking you also before we got to the TV show, I said, you know, I wanted to hear a little bit the story of how this became, because I'm aware there's all kinds of services that are out there for seniors. And to the average person, when you're trying to navigate, help mom, dad, aunt, uncle, somebody in your family,
you're not sure which thing to call first or where it starts, where it stops. And you could be a rocket scientist. And believe me, we have rocket scientists here on the Space Coast, but you might be brilliant at that part, but you really don't know where to go here. But that's kind of what led you guys to really expand the concept to do this.
Yeah, our founder and CEO, Ari Medoff, he just saw such a need in the senior space for a one-stop shop for somebody, right? There are private duty home care companies, there, skilled nursing, there's concierge nursing, there's care management organizations. And Ari was very attracted by the care management model, but he saw it as an opportunity to create what we call integrated care management, where care management is our focus and our bread and butter, but we also have the luxury of offering a suite of services, which includes the in-home caregiving and the concierge nursing. And Ari was able to, through acquisitions and startup, make that, plan a dream and a reality. And also kind of furthermore, the name Arosa, that is a city in Switzerland. And for Ari's family during difficult times, it was a safe haven for his family. And it kind of represents how we are safe haven for families who come to us in need.
I was going to ask you, because you were telling me that the company, literally, its roots go back something like 20 years, and you guys began in North Carolina. But now this concept is really catching fire, and you guys are in all kinds of areas around, I think you said 14 states?
Yes, sir.
Wow. And so this is new for our area here, although you guys have been in Orlando for a while, but this is exciting to see this kind of concept coming to Florida, because the thing I wanted to ask you is, we get calls all the time from people. Mom is in a hospital. She's coming home. We're not sure what to do next and those kind of things. But that's exactly where you are able to get in and work with a family and help them make things seamless, smooth, and you bring that expert kind of direction to all of it.
Absolutely. I mean, I would say that's the main impetus for what we do. I mean, families come to us and probably one of the first things they say is, we're so overwhelmed. I just don't know what to do. I'm so stressed here. And right away, what we do is we say, hey, from this moment on, we're your stress ball. We take on all of those stressors for you, and we're going to turn into positives for your family, because that is what we do. We are beyond just doing a solution where it's, okay, yeah, we'll send you a caregiver, we'll do this and that. We actually want to sit down and put a full care plan together. As you mentioned, an aging plan. We want to be a part of that. So we are going to do really detailed care consultations to find out whatever particular need you have. And it doesn't always have to be some clinical need. It doesn't have to be an end of life need. It could be as simple as, hey, mom and dad are bored. We're away. Can you find activities for them? Can you maybe find them new physicians? Can you help find them a new place to live? They're having a hard time navigating their finances, setting up a power of attorney. All those type of things are things that we are able to help them with through our care management services, plus the cool luxury of having the nursing and caregiving part as well, which is pretty neat.
I was thinking about that. I was asking you guys both about your particular backgrounds. I said, because it's interesting. Everybody has a unique journey that brings them into kind of the healthcare world. And you have developed quite a bit of expertise. I think you were telling me your own background. You started with EMT background.
I did. Yeah, I knew that I wanted to work in healthcare, and I knew I wanted to help people. I just had no idea how I was going to do that. So I had met some people who encouraged me to go into that field, and it was wonderful. I loved it. But through there, I found a passion for healthcare management, and that brought me to the senior living space. The senior care space. I apologize. And an influence to get there was the way that I saw a personal loved one get treated. And I took that as I never want to see anybody go through the aging journey like that again. So that definitely got me motivated to work in this space. And then, Stacie's got a pretty unique background as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're a speech pathologist by trade is where you come up, and that's got to give you real insight into everything that's going on in the geriatric world.
It really does. When you're a therapist and you work as a rehab director, as I did for many years, over a 30-year span for the geriatric population, I'm able to see how we need those integrated care giving models to help the families to come up with a solution. And I was brought on, and it looked at what Arosa does and how all of our journeys and all of our backgrounds help to bring about that care management model. And so with what I do, I can bring about some of the cognitive, treatments and assessments to make sure that if that's the area that they need assistance in, we can help as well. So it kind of brings a little bit of a different, with what we do and who we hire as care managers, it gives us a little bit of an edge too in that as well, so that we can bring about a different perspective.
I guess one of the things that's important to understand is, like, a lot of times you think if you're just calling, I would say a number in the old days would say it was a number you got out of the phone book. Now it's probably a number you found someplace online, or maybe you saw an ad on TV, you call 1-800 something. And I always smile about that, because we talk about how all life is really lived local. And so when you call 1-800, whatever that thing is that they can send somebody to your house or whatever, you're talking to probably some very wonderful people, but they're in a call center out in the Midwest. They're not really connected to our community. They don't really know who all the players are and what's going to be the most beneficial. And Stacie, that's one of the things that seems like very powerful about what you bring to Arosa Care is your knowledge and experience right here on the Space Coast. So you really have all that background to be able to help a family really navigate. And I like what you call it. You call it integrated
care management. Yeah.
That's a term that people should really get to know and understand, because then it means you're not having to hunt all these 800 numbers. You just call Stacie and say, let's figure this out.
Yeah. And we, as far as understanding some of the different services that we provide, when we bring someone, about as far as coming on to care management and bringing in nursing and bringing in possibly physical therapy and occupational therapy and speech therapy, it kind of brings it together. But knowing the area here is another thing, so that we know some of the doctors and we can, get in touch with, for some of our clients, if it's an ophthalmologist that they need, or a rheumatologist that they need, or a cardiologist, we have some insight into those, because we have been here for quite some time.
And Stacie in particular, this community so well. So she understands the personality of this community, because Brevard County is different than Palm Beach County, than Miami-Dade County.
Thank you.
There's a certain energy, a certain type of mentality you have to have. So I'm so blessed that I have Stacie Martin as our representative here. And that's not to say that somebody who moved from New York and has been in Brevard for a year wouldn't do great work, but they're not going to truly know what it means to be a Brevard County resident. And Stacie understands that better than anybody on our team. So that really, I think, helps set her apart from a lot of the other care managers that are in this county.
I think it's so important what you're saying, too, because I was thinking about our own experience. I always tell people, my wife and I are kids from Atlanta, Georgia, who got here via 10 years in Manhattan. Now, we've had a home in Florida since 97, but we've only been full-time Floridians since 2008. And, there are some things that are unique. And it's not just talking about Brevard County, but here there's a whole thing like beachside is different than Maine, and so if you're calling somebody that doesn't really familiar with the geography, they don't understand those nuances, and maybe they don't even make sense to somebody who's living in Iowa, but they do make sense when you're here, and we have a uniquely shaped county, and that local experience makes all the difference. But the other thing that makes the difference is the experience that you guys bring to the table, because how to put the steps in the correct order. I was thinking back to our own experience as caregivers for our moms. And I said before the show, I wish I knew then what I know now, what I've learned now. But they would ask us questions like, okay, your mom should have this. And we were like, I guess, I don't know. But those are questions like now we wouldn't have to try to answer these on our own. We could go to you and say, like, this is what they're saying. What is the thing that we should be doing? And rely on your background, your experience, and the connections that you bring all through Arosa to be able to come to the best solution.
Absolutely. It's funny. We'll get a call, for example, I need to put mom and dad in a home, right? And they call it that because they don't know otherwise terms to use. And we'll say, hey, that could be the best solution for mom. And we understand and it might end up being that way. But let's sit down, let's have a conversation, and let's figure out what's the next steps. Because maybe it's getting a physician evaluation. Maybe it's really uncovering what your cognitive level's like. Let us do a in-home safety evaluation. Are your finances in place? Because you're saying you want a senior living, but it's not that easy if you don't have certain things in place. So we make sure that we go through understand the whole spectrum of what that particular family's needs are before we just recklessly make a decision that might not be best for them or for the family.
So let me ask you a question, because one of the I guess it's a plus side and it's a downside. One of the challenges when we use words like concierge, it does make us think like, wow, this could be very pricey. Can I even afford to have that conversation? I want to ask you about that. Who is a good fit, or who should be giving you guys a call and talking?
That's a great question. So yes, our services are private pay.
Okay.
Unless you have something that's called long-term care insurance. And for those who are not familiar, that's something that you invest in, kind of relatively early in life. And that insurance goes towards, things like in-home care, possibly care management services. And then we're also a network with the veterans. So we could help provide veteran support if they qualify. But all that said, even though we are private pay, we will work with families. Like, of course, we're a business, so there's some within reason things. But in the end, we want to do what's best. We want to serve the highest amount of clients that we can, because we really want to support our communities. So if somebody calls us and they're turned off by the private pay, we'll sit with them and say, "Tell us what you can afford. Tell us what works for you, and we'll put together a plan that best serves that."
What is so important about that is what we have this term that we use a lot in the helping seniors world. We call it getting your ducks in a row. Again, Joe called it making an aging plan. We just say get your ducks in a row, just because it's probably a little easier to not feel intimidated by. And also the reality is when you say getting your ducks in a row, it constitutes that, you want to be cognizant of all the dynamics. You have family, you have all these other things that are moving all at the same time. And so trying to put the best plan together for that makes the most sense. But there are two corollaries that we've added to that we really feel strongly about. One is we always say, don't try this on your own. You may think you're brilliant. You know how to run a search engine online and all that. But I don't know about you, but I say this all the time. I'll look up something online and sometimes I'll walk away scratching my head and being more confused than I sat down with, not because I'm an idiot, but I don't really understand what that topic that I'm searching out. So I don't know if I'm getting credible advice or if I'm just getting somebody's opinion who's sitting in their, for lack of a better way to put it, somebody's basement someplace 1,000 miles from here. I want somebody who is local, who we can talk to, who can explain the lay of the land. This means that. This might mean this could be a good way to go. That's the expertise you guys bring to the table.
No doubt. I mean, I'll give you an example of someone that Stacie, well, I'll let Stacie take it from here, but just this morning, she was helping somebody navigate finding new physicians, which she knows who the top physicians would be. He's having a difficulty figuring out his computer, so she's going to help him get a new computer. He needs to get his long-term care insurance policy in, needs to learn the ins and outs of that so he could utilize it for care. So, that's what Stacie's doing.
And like I told him this morning, it's like, we can do a little bit of pre-assessment before he goes to his neurologist in another week. And we'll do a screening to make sure that he's on the right track, because he is aware. And that's the hardest part that we see a lot of times, is when they become aware that they're starting to have cognitive loss. And he's very accepting, thankfully, of that. However, it's like we can do that quick screening to make sure that he gets the right information to take to his neurologist, and we can go from there.
And we're lucky that this particular gentleman is acknowledging that, there's certain challenges for him in life now, but the majority are very proud individuals, right? Yeah. And it's very difficult for them to accept that you might need care. So, for us, the people that represent Arosa, it's so important that they have emotional intelligence and empathy, because that's what's going to make or break us being able to provide, no matter how well Stacie or myself or anybody might know how to navigate the aging journey. If we don't have that empathy and that emotional intelligence to see that, okay, this particular person needs help but let's not make him feel a certain way. Let's provide this care while also helping him age gracefully and feel independent still. So I would say that's probably, in this particular case, the biggest challenge you'll have.
Yes. And that's the beauty of how we come about with this care management. It's like, if they only need 2 hours, they don't, have to take more than that, or 4. We'll work through how much they need as we go along to try to give them that independence and make them maintain that for as long as they can.
As you were talking about that, I was thinking what a godsend you are, because from the standpoint that a lot of times people will go to the doctor first and then come back with this whole playbook of diagnosis and these kind of things, and not even then be even more intimidated than maybe when they went. But by having the opportunity to speak with you ahead of time and say, here's kind of what's going on, then you're going to also help him to understand maybe the correct questions that he needs to ask of the neurologist, as opposed to just sitting there. And, a lot of times we get in the doctor's office, we're not on the same level. So we're intimidated to maybe ask questions. And we get out and say, I should have asked about this. Why didn't I do that?
But we'll be there with him as well.
Wow.
That's the good thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And for family members too, that might be a way. They're going to want to know what happened at the doctor today. What's going on with Dad?
Yeah.
Because if they ask Dad's going to give a different answer than maybe the physician might give, than we might give. So they know that we're coming from a completely unbiased perspective, because all we care about is what's best for our particular client. So whether it's positive news, negative news, a hard decision, whatever it may be, that's the type of information we're going to provide back to that family.
Yeah, that's so good. I was smiling as you were saying that, because I was remembering, particularly with my wife's mother, she was very independent. So she would go to the doctor herself, and after she'd been complaining all week about this, or this, and she'd come back from that. Well, what the doctor said? Oh, everything's fine. Yeah. So, so that wasn't good. So my wife was all like, okay, what did he really say? Yeah. And so eventually it was like, okay, I better go with you. And sure enough, there was a lot more of the dynamics going on medically that, we don't know how. First of all, we don't know as patients. Yeah. It's not like we're trying to be secretive. We just don't know how to use the words the doctor would use. You would understand those words and understand how to help us know what to do next with those words. I think that's the real value. But the second corollary that we bring all the time, when we say, don't be an ostrich, don't stick your head in the sand, don't wait until the last minute. And again, it seems like the value that you're doing for this gentleman is you're being able to be there as he starts to see what's going on, what his options are, how he can best respond to that in the most beneficial way possible. And that's really what I think you call it, integrative care management. Am I using the right term?
Yes, you are.
But that's really the step, so that as his needs change, you're able to meet him where those needs are going to take him.
Absolutely. We kind of the term pre-crisis care. Yeah. That's kind of a lot of ways that we look at it. Yeah, is good. That we're getting ahead of this journey for you. Yeah. Of course, Kerry, if there is a moment where it is just crisis care, we can accommodate that, of course. But for the sake of family members, we encourage them to get ahead of it. But in those crisis situations, what happens a lot is they'll get better, right? Yeah. They'll feel better, and they'll say, okay, I don't need care anymore. Because we have that care management component to our business, we're able to say to the families, that's wonderful. We're so happy you feel better. You don't need caregiving services or nursing anymore. But we're here that we could go with you to your doctor once a month. We can do things to make sure that we prevent you having another crisis. So what that allows us to do, it keeps families feeling at ease, and it allows us to build true long-standing relationships with our clients.
Yeah, I think what we're really talking about here is peace of mind, because whether you're hitting the crisis, which is a terrible place to be, and of course that can hit at any time, even if you've made a plan, but at least when you know who you're going to call when that's hitting, you're going to get some expert advice to help navigate. As I always like to say, it's not your first rodeo. You've been through this a few times, so you know how to help guide a family through those things. And then as things calm out and get kind of back to sort of a dull roar, if you will, then you're also in a position to help navigate strategically so that everything is smoothed out. And I think that's really the value of what you can bring. If people want to learn more about Arosa Care and what it could mean for them here in Brevard County, what's the next step they should take?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, you could always find us online at arosacare.com, and you could learn about our services there. And we're on all the social media pages as well. But what really is valuable is, like we talked about earlier, Stacie Martin is not only a care manager in the community, she's the one who's going out and meeting everybody. Right. So if she's going to, say, a senior community and she's meeting with a family member, she is going to be that person providing that care for them. So it's really special that you have someone like Stacie. So Stacie, how can people contact you and find more about the business?
Well, the beauty of us getting involved in this community is that we were very fortunate to meet with you, Kerry, and become one of the residents here in the offices of Helping Seniors of Brevard. So we are so thankful that we have that connection. It's wonderful. And we're right here close to the hospital, and we're local. So we're here off of Apollo, and they can contact us here.
I think it's fascinating, everything that we're learning about the advantage of, I think, as you guys call it, integrated care management. I just like to simplify it and call it concierge care. I can make one call and trust that I'm going to get the help that I need here. But Stacie, you're right here in Brevard County. We talked about the fact that you're right here in the Senior Resource Center of Brevard with us. Convenient. Omni Healthcare Building is where we are. It's called officially, it's the Apollo Professional Tower. We're on the second floor. You can't miss us. But if somebody wants to give you a call, what's a good way to get in contact?
Our number here is 321-352-5527.
Okay.
So give us a call. We're here local, and we're glad to help.
All right. Well, thank you both, Chris and Stacie, for joining us on today. That's about the time we have for the Helping Seniors television show today. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
I'm Joe Steckler. Thank you for joining our program today. I'd like to remind you that our senior information line is available to you at 321-473-7770. There you can get help and direction that could be helpful for your specific situation or circumstances. The work of helping seniors is very important, but we can't do it alone. That is why our sponsors here in Brevard County are so important. I'd like to thank our many area sponsors, businesses, and medical providers who support the mission of helping seniors that help us carry the cost of our media efforts. If you'd like to join us either as a business partner or simply donate as an individual, we welcome your call at 321-473-7770. You are always welcome to visit our website at www.helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. Thanks so much for your help. It does make a difference.